What I do find interesting, though, is you mentioned that a lot of money buying, among other things, time, which
Yes.
is true.
Yeah. And
But
convenience.
and convenience. But in America, for example, like our highest earners tend to work the most
Yes.
hours. So
Isn't
they're
that
not,
fascinating?
but they're
Is,
not buying
isn't
themselves
that
time.
fascinating? But that is absolutely fascinating. This
I
is
agree.
very unusual in the history of the world.
I agree.
That the people who have the most money are working so hard.
Right. And
And
that's,
so it's
yeah.
not that they're lazy, right? It's not
No.
that they're decadent. I think it's that work is fun. And when you're working at a very high level, it's really fun.
See, I don't
It's
know.
really fun. It's almost compulsively fun. There's an enormous, there's all you know, you're getting that intermittent reinforcement of getting things done. And as you, I mean, in many jobs, the more senior you are, the more interesting your job is.
I would say that's probably true for a lot of people. I do think that there are two factors that are incredibly important for most people. One is lifestyle inflation, and that is sort of like the hamster wheel that most people, even at a middle class salary, can't get off. But also, I would say, secondly, and this is particularly true for, you know, top executives, top earners, the people who are in these rooms, is an extremely limited pool of peers against which to compare yourself. So you combine this idea of lifestyle inflation with first class used to be enough. Now it's, you know, executive first class, the like private suite. Now it's a private plane. And all of the rest of that used to be great feels unsatisfactory. And then you combine that with you live in a building where everyone else in your building's a millionaire.
But see, I don't think that people are working to make more money necessarily. I think they're working for the satisfaction that comes from the satisfactions of work. And part of the satisfactions of work is money. Money is money, and people want more money if they can have more money. But there's so many other things. Like when people say like, oh, these people are clearly greedy because they have more money than they could ever spend, and yet they continue to work round the clock. It's not because it's because they want other things. You know,
what about status?
Oh, 100% status, enormously important, enormously important. But many people have high status that don't make a lot of money. But in a lot of places, the way that you indicate that you have a lot of status is the money is the grade. It's the grade, it's the gold star, it's the measuring stick. And could we all go off that measuring stick and have like an imaginary, measuring stick where it's like literally a star chart that, you know, Warren Buffett distributes at the end of the year? Probably, you know, that would probably keep people driving just as much.
Is there a point at which a person could earn too much money?
Oh, well, that's a very interesting question, right? If so, we've clearly reached it.
I would agree, but I think the question becomes, at what point is it our obligation as a community and as a society to say, hey, once we get to the point where Jeff Bezos can cheat on his wife and lose the value of the, you know, the entire GDP of the country of Bulgaria because he made that personal error, and there's that much wealth in the hands of what is at the end of the day of you know, a human being with flaws and needs and insecurities, and
Right.
at the end of the day, also a rather selfish interest compared to what an entire community of people would do with that same money. Do we want that level of power in individuals' hands? And if not, like, where do we draw that line? And how do we draw that line? And I'm curious because obviously
I think that's a social question and a political question, not a question of individual happiness.
But I think that it also starts in our perception, right? Because I think that we still very much valorize these people. We still very much look at the metric of success through a lens of money as maybe not the most valid one, but still, I mean, I love watching Shark Tank as much as anyone else does. And that is, I think, speaks so highly to our cultural understanding of money as, if not the most important arbiter of success, at the very least, the most true one or the most clear one.
But I don't know. I'm not sure that I agree with that, because I think there are many people who are very, very highly respected, who are very, who people are very interested in, who don't earn a ton of money. Like, I don't know why I keep talking about the ballet, because like I never go to the ballet. But anyway, but like someone who is, you know, a ballet star. I think everyone would be interested in that person. Or like, I'm a writer. There's many writers. You don't make that much money writing. Most people don't make that much money. There are people where, you know, people would be like, oh my gosh, Robert Caro, he's here. Oh, they would be very, very excited about that. And they would be very interested in him, and they would hold him to the very highest respect, but not because he earns the most money. I mean, I'm sure as a writer, he does make a lot of money. I'm sure because his books are so respected and successful, but not compared to like a hedge fund guy.
Right.
But it doesn't really matter, because that's not, if you work in finance, then that's the big metric. But then there are many, many other metrics where people are very interested in just your accomplishments in another way.
Mm.
And most people try to translate their accomplishments into money because that's how they make their money. That's how they support themselves.
Mm.
Um, but um, I don't think it's the only. I think it's almost it's an accompaniment, but it's not necessarily the only driver that's important.